We're not only going to cover the cost of Facebook ads, we're also going to compare the cost against Google ads and give a bunch of tips on getting your costs down, being way more profitable. So watch this all the way through if you want to be way more competitive in 2021, 2022, and beyond. There's a number of really important factors that influence the cost that we need to cover before we get into very specific numbers. The first one is the time of year that you're advertising. So certainly Q4, October, November, December, especially around Black Friday, it is significantly more expensive to get in front of people. Sometimes it's like 200, maybe even 300% higher to reach people because it's really a big auction. Everyone is competing to get in front of people. So really you have to think about supply and demand. If a bunch more people are advertising and willing to spend more to get in front of people, your costs are going to go up quite a bit. However, that doesn't mean that's a time you want to stop running ads. I have found it's the worst time to try to reach brand new people who haven't heard of your brand before, but people are really in the buying state, and it is a good time to drive a lot of sales, especially with people who've already heard of your brand. Industry is also incredibly important. Certain industries are notoriously expensive to reach people. One of those is software as a service. There's just so much Silicon Valley funding where companies have a lot of money to dump into Facebook ads, and that's really who you're competing against. Also, beauty and certain health things can be very, very expensive. Certain things with sales and marketing, you have to really take a hard look at who you're competing with and how much they're comfortable spending to get a customer. For example, there's one marketing guy, Russell Brunson. He has a book that he gives away for free plus shipping for $9. So he's making basically no money on that first sale. But he has all sorts of courses, other products. He has a full software program, ClickFunnels, which is like around $1,000 per year. So he's able to pitch people all those things, have upsells and downsells and all sorts of things. So he's comfortable spending like $60 to $80 on that book, even though on the book he's making zero profit. If you're trying to sell your own marketing book, but you don't have all those upsells and downsells and different ways to make profit off a customer, you're directly competing with him and you're absolutely going to get crushed. Location is also very important. Generally, with larger areas or larger audience sizes, it will cost you less money to get in front of people because it has a bigger audience to try to find the cheapest people to get in front of. So generally, the US would cost less than just targeting California, which would cost less than just targeting Los Angeles. The country that you're targeting will also strongly impact your costs. So if you're doing US, this will cost more than Canada, which will cost a lot more than somewhere like Brazil or India. The last thing that strongly influences your costs is the campaign objective that you choose. So you're really telling Facebook, hey, I want you to hit this objective as inexpensively as possible. So if you choose reach, it's going to try to get it in front of as many people as possible, as inexpensively as possible. Same if you do link clicks, it's going to try to get you the cheapest link clicks possible. Facebook knows people's behavior on Facebook. So they know if people tend to click on ads, if they tend to make purchases, make big purchases, and generally people are willing to pay a lot more to get in front of people who tend to buy. So if you're targeting reach, it will generally target people who don't tend to click on ads and don't tend to buy because they're a lot cheaper to get in front of. Therefore, it can get you a much wider reach for less money. Whereas if you do link clicks, it will generally target people who tend to click on ads, but maybe not buy quite as often because they're less expensive to get in front of than people who tend to buy. Purchases, it's gonna say, hey, I don't care how much I have to pay to get in front of someone, they're really likely to buy. They're way more likely to make me profitable. I'm gonna show it to this person. After running Facebook ads for a number of years, I have found the best results for just choosing the campaign objective that I want. So if I want purchases, choosing purchases as a campaign objective. Because of all those factors, I'm gonna give some different ranges of what you can expect to pay. Let's first look at cost to get a bunch of impressions. So that's how many times you get it in front of people. So if someone sees it 5 times, that counts as 5 impressions. If you're targeting a country like the US, I've seen anywhere, I think the lowest I've seen is like $6 to reach 1,000 impressions. You know, it can go up to $15, $20 with the reach objective. If you're targeting the purchase objective, or if you have a much smaller audience, I've seen the cost go up to sometimes even over $100 to reach 1,000 people. But actually, one of my most profitable audiences is costing like $100 to reach 1,000 people, but those people are so likely to buy it's very, very profitable. I found Canada is often about half as expensive to reach people, and I have a couple campaigns going in like India and Brazil, and it's like 1/10 as expensive to get in front of people. Now let's talk link clicks. In the US, I'm generally seeing anywhere from like 20 cents to $2 to get someone to click on a link. It will be a little bit lower if you target link clicks specifically. While the cost to get in front of people sort of is what it is, the cost to drive link clicks is strongly influenced by how good you are at getting people to click on your ads, how good you are at the copywriting and ad creation where people really want to visit that web page. Here is a couple tips on increasing that click-through rate to make your ad costs go down. So the first thing you can do is you can have a very enticing question that really convinces people to go to the page. So it could be like, what's your oral hygiene score? Or how much money could you be saving on your heating bill? Another very common thing is having like a pre-sale article, which tends to have a high click-through rate. So it's something like 5 strategies to help with acne, and your product is mentioned, but a lot of people click because it's a helpful information page, and then you're adding people to retargeting. And if your ad has a lot of info about the product or like a testimonial or things like that, you still want like the headline or the call to action itself to be enticing people to the page. So it could be like, get this discount for 48 hours only, or even like learn why this teeth whitening is 10% more effective. Now, if you're trying to drive purchases or leads, your most important thing is making sure those ads are profitable, but definitely still be thinking about how to boost your click-through rate and get more people onto the page. I have driven link clicks for as little as 3 cents in some other countries, but for the most part in the US, I'm aiming for anywhere from 30 cents to $1, but mainly focusing on being profitable. Calculating the cost of purchases is a little bit more complicated because it is so dependent on the cost of your product. It's going to cost you way more money to drive a $300 purchase compared to a $20 purchase. Generally, the number I'm looking for is being willing to spend at least half of what the customer pays. So if it's a $60 product, being comfortable spending at least $30 to get that purchase. I've also found it's very challenging to get purchases for less than $20 consistently and at scale. I have had some days where I've driven like $9 purchases, but for the most part, aim for $20 or over to be competitive. You also really want to be thinking about additional products and bundles and offers you can make to people, either directly in the checkout process as upsells and downsells, or via email or your follow-up process, really thinking about, okay, over the next like 4 months, how much on average are people going to spend in my store buying my products? Because as that number goes up, it's becoming more and more common for people to break even or lose money on the first sale, but they have a really strong follow-up process where over the course of 4 months, they can be really profitable with that customer. This is becoming more important as ads are getting more competitive. Really think about your page, optimizing that page to get more people to check out, add things to their cart, and finish their order. Here's a couple quick tips on getting more ads to your cart. The very first thing is using a tool like Hotjar that'll actually track how far down people scroll and what they click on, so you can use that data to rearrange your page and make some adjustments to boost the add to cart. And if you have a really long page, you will probably want to have the add to cart button in several different places, and all those buttons will lead to the same checkout process. You definitely want the button color for the add to cart not to appear anywhere else on the page. You want it to be very saturated. I generally recommend sticking with colors similar to Amazon and that sort of layout, just because people are so familiar with that. Your checkout will be intuitive and easy to use for them. You can also mess with the text on the button. It doesn't always have to be add to cart. It could be, yes, give me instant access, or give me this exclusive discount. The cost to get leads can really be all over the place because you could get really cheap leads who never ever buy anything and just take up space on the email list, whereas you could get other leads that are very, very expensive but tend to buy a whole bunch and be very, very profitable. So I think the cheapest I've ever driven leads is like 20 cents, but they actually weren't very good. I've actually seen cases where it's like $75 to get a lead that were very, very profitable because it was a premium service where maybe 1 out of 10 people go through with it, but it's like a $10,000 sale. If you're paying for leads, it is so insanely important to be able to track if they're taking the steps you want them to take, because you may be really excited to get leads for $1, but if they don't buy anything, that is money just flushed down the drain. I don't personally do app install campaigns, but some of the people I know, generally they're seeing, I don't know, maybe $1 up to $5, $10, somewhere in that range, depending on different factors for getting someone to do an app install. So how do the cost of Facebook ads compare with the cost of Google ads? Google ads are significantly more expensive than Facebook ads, but they're also much more targeted, and it's generally people who are much more likely to buy. If someone is searching for buy women's shoes and your ad comes up and they click on that, they're way more likely to buy, which means you should be willing to pay a lot more. Versus if they're just scrolling through Facebook, you just have to hope that you catch them when they actually want shoes or that it calls to them, but you're really interrupting people who are just scrolling through their feed, whereas they're specifically searching for something with Google ads. Google is also a big competition where people are willing to pay a lot more to get in front of the right search term. So if people are searching free report on back pain, generally you'll pay a lot less to advertise in front of that term compared to back pain chiropractor. On certain search terms on Google, you'll pay over $100 per click, not per lead, per click. And Google, I found, varies quite a bit more. Sometimes you can get clicks for under $1 up to over $100, so that's a much bigger range within the same country. Facebook ads are definitely better for reaching a lot more people with less money. Like, it's not uncommon to get impressions for like 1 cent, whereas it will generally cost a lot more on Google. Facebook is often better for products that can really appeal to a lot of different people and where there isn't any sense of urgency. Like if you're a plumber or someone who fixes flat tires, people are going to Google. They are not just scrolling through their Facebook feed hoping to come across an ad of a plumber. If you want your Facebook ad costs to go down, there's actually 8 key factors that strongly influence how profitable you will be on Facebook. I did a full training on that. You will definitely want to check that out. Give this video a like if it was helpful. Thank you. I will see you in that video.